side. Yeah, so you're starting to see these facilities pop up, and Triumph. I mean, that wasn't just a chip in the bucket. I mean, that shows another thing of their commitment. They're here for the long haul. Yeah. So they're putting in a lot of effort and resources, and I like that they've built a facility. It's first class, and really, I think that you need it these days. I think that you need a facility these days because it basically forces the rider to have to perform, and if the rider doesn't perform, it's not going to be because they didn't have the tangibles or they didn't have the resources.
Do you think it can still be achieved if you haven't got the facility and you're not connected?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I don't mean that. This is like, obviously to get to that. To get
100%, you don't have to have.
Well, look at Eli.
You're right.
Okay, he spends X amount of time at the Star facility, gets his bike dialed in, gets things comfortable. Let's say he spends a month there, but then he goes back to where he's at in Colorado, and he's got his own facility. He's got his mechanic there, and he has the self motivation to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's key.
Yeah.
And so. Yes, it can happen, but with the facilities, they're able to keep an eye on the youth, and that's where I think that it's huge. The younger riders coming in, let's keep an eye on them. Let's give them a training program. Let's work with them with a rider coach, a training coach. Establish that Eli Tomac base or Chase Sexton base, and if they can go off and do it on their own, okay, and be successful at it, but not. They got to reel them back in.
I mean, you see it. It's very similar to what other stick and ball major sports do. These sports clubs, and they have a full facility. And when you go to work out, especially during the season, you are under their microscope, and that's for a reason. And I second exactly what Jeff said. I think it's important for the younger kids, an older, established veteran of the sport, like he was talking about Eli. He doesn't need to have his hand held, and he can perform in his own space.
Habitat.
So, his own habitat. Yeah, 100%. So I love what they're doing. I think it was necessary, and again, it shows their commitment to where they want to be in the sport.
And on that note, so regarding with that, when you're training in the facility and everybody is together, do you feel that? How do you feel that works mentally? Do you feel that that's an advantage because you've got 4 guys all pushing and working hard? Is it an advantage to Eli that he trains on his own? Could he have more of a mental edge because of that, or less?
Let's talk about the 250 class first, because those are the kids, and I think let's just throw names out there. Deegan, it works great for him because he's the top dog. He's putting in laps. But if you got a guy that's coming up, and you got Kitchens or somebody that's they're gonna chew that kid up and spit it out if he's just mentally getting just hammered every day. So there's goods and bads. They're gonna thin out the weak.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I have
mixed emotions.
I have mixed emotions about that. If somebody could take that guy that's at the bottom of the food chain and just getting hammered every day, maybe if somebody could take him aside and build him up and give him the self-confidence that he needs to get to that level, it either makes you or breaks you.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. So you really are just tested there.
If you're not mentally tough, and those 2 other guys or 3 other guys that are better than you, if you're not mentally tough to push,
you're gone.
You're gone, and that's the advantage of it. But on just thinking about an individual personal side, that kind of hurts.
Yeah, and also as well, we all think differently at different times, right?
Yeah.
So
100%.
So at different stages, he could be a little bit more mentally, because you don't know actually what he's going through. Maybe, I don't know, for example, at home, I'm over-egging it a little bit here now, but you don't know, do you, the circumstances?
No.
So when he's there riding on the bike, and that is his release, and he's normally, if everything was all good there, and he is good and he is comfortable, then he could be.
I just try to put my shoes on their shoes on my feet. Team owner, I want to see that whole thing play out. But if I put that guy's shoes on my feet that's 4th or 5th in the food chain in that 250 class, and he's just mentally not tough to make it, I feel bad for him. So I understand both sides of it.
What would you, words of advice, moving forward from that, and that's what we'll finish on. How would you guide somebody on, nurture somebody through? What words of advice would you give them if they're, if someone is listening to this and they're kind of relating to it?
For me, I go back to self-motivation. If you don't have the self-motivation to get out of bed and ride your bicycle or run or train, I mean, dude, did you get up and run this morning?
I didn't run, I rode.
Okay. He's been retired for
somebody tell him to do that?
Nobody told him to do that.
I know, right?
But where I'm going with this is I'm 55 years old. I get up and work out every day still. And these kids, these kids at a young age need to be taught self-motivation, and they will get so much further in life if they have the self-motivation and can see the direction they want to go instead of being pushed along their whole way. All these training facilities tell these kids to get out of bed. Let's go ride. We got to do this. We got to do this. And I was raised differently. I never had that. I had the self-motivation, and I wanted to make it happen. And if we could get that circle of life back,
that work ethic.
That work ethic and circle of life back. It's a circle of life. It'll make a cycle.
Yeah.
But until we preach that and coach that,
it's not going to change.
It's not going to change.
Make them hungry a little bit. Is that?
It's debt. I call it debt motivation.
Right.
I just like him and myself, we had no other route. We didn't have anything to fall back on. So it was, and I knew at a young age, I didn't want to. I love my parents, but I wanted to have a better life than they did.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the plain and simple. I knew that if I went there and I grinded, and anything could have happened. It could have easily went the other way, but I had the tangibles, and I used everything that I had, and I put those tangibles to good use. And you have to be able to do that. And like I said, it was debt motivation. I didn't want to have to work my whole life.
So just to complement what Jeff said, what would you say?
I would say for the younger kids coming up is there's no substitute for hard work, and you just if you want to work your whole life, that's great, but if you want to retire from racing, it's always better to do a little more than not enough, and you only have one shot at it. And I can assure you probably don't want to be in the spot where you say, damn, I wish I would have done that.
And for the parents that are listening to this, don't give your kids everything. Dangle a carrot in front of them. And when you provide everything for your kids and you don't make them work for something, they're never gonna succeed in life.
Right.
It's them trophies. Yeah. Like for example, that name, your name in, let's say, within a paper. So, for example, I can touch on that just quickly. So, for example, I started racing, club level, would be there, brake clutch levers, brake levers, throttle, didn't go practicing, went racing. Got better at racing, why didn't my name come up in the paper, or why didn't I see my name? Because obviously social media wasn't about then, so I couldn't do my own race report, right? So then you worked hard to be top 6, so your name was in there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Then you work hard to get a trophy.
There you go. Yeah. Yep.
So actually, sometimes not having that can actually bring the best out in the kids to make them work.
Make you hungry.
Yep.
Yeah.
The production-ready machine, complete with Triumph Racing Yellow, black and white graphics. Jeff, of course, famously won his 6th championship here in the Coliseum in 1992. RC on the special version of the bike built just for him. Ricky has been instrumental in the development of this bike over the last 3 years. Let's hear it one more time for Ricky Carmichael and Jeff Stanton.